7.5 years of experience. I mainly work on content management systems like Documentum and SharePoint and stuff. So I am familiar with Java because Documentum is based on Java, and just I do some development as well. So that's me shortly.
Okay, you mean to say that you have Java knowledge, right?
Yes.
You are working on it.
Yes.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Then Nadim, can you give your introduction, please?
Yeah, hi. So I have 13 years of data warehousing and business intelligence experience, and I am basically trying to learn the newer technologies in that sphere. So big data and Hadoop being one of them. So that's what brings me to this course, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, very good. So it helps you, right? You can use it as the ETL tool, and you can just put this data into your warehouse. And which which business intelligence tools are you using? Can I know?
Yeah, I mean I've done both back-end and front-end. So basically from Oracle Informatica to Teradata I've used before, and ClickView, Business Objects, that stack.
Okay, that's good. That's really good. So it's mainly on the analysis side, right? Generating the reports, dashboards, and all.
Yeah. I mean I've been mostly in project management and recently management role, but my interest is basically to learn the technology as well. So, but yeah, my hands-on work has mostly been on the back-end side, and then some of it on the front end.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. So, can we have an introduction about Sunil?
Hi Shanta, this is Sunil. So I have over
Yeah, please carry on.
Hello?
So, just a second, Nadim. Sunil, can you able to hear me? Hello, Sunil? No, Sunil. Can you speak now? Anybody else is able to hear Sunil apart from me?
No, I can't hear him as well.
Okay. No props, Sunil. I think he's facing some issue. Just 2 minutes, guys. We'll just make sure whether Sunil is able to hear us or not. Okay, good. So Sunil is able to hear us, but we are not able to hear Sunil. So no problem. Okay, good. So you can just give a brief introduction in the chat window itself, Sunil. That's not a problem. So Sunil is saying like he's working as a manual or automatic tester for the past 8 years. Okay, great. Looking for a career change. So I want to take this class. Okay. Yes, Sunil. That's correct. So Sunil has given his introduction in the chat window itself. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Sunil. If you face any problem, okay, you can just ping me in the chat window itself, Sunil. I'll be seeing it. Okay, no problem. And guys, both of you, Nadim and Gitu, okay, you can also ping me in the chat window, or else you can speak to me if you want to ask anything. If you are getting any doubts, okay, you can just ask me. And one more thing, what I wanted to tell is actually, okay, just now the construction work has been started in the parallel road, so you might get some background disturbance. Okay, guys, please bear it for this day. For morning batch, I didn't have it. Just now they have started it. Okay, so if you face any difficulties, okay, please tell me. Okay. So I want the class to be as a interactive section. Okay, so we will be discussing about everything. Okay, so don't feel hesitate to ask any questions. It might be any type of questions, since I know everyone have come from different type of background, right? Everyone are perfect in their own field. Okay, so if you get any type of doubt, it may be a silly or it may be a big, okay, you can just put a question over here. Okay, that's not at all a problem. And let's start with our big data overview. Okay, all of you are able to see my screen, right? You can just put S on the chat window. Yes, Sunil is able to see, Nadim is able to see, and okay, very great. Gitu is also able to see my screen. Okay, that's good. So today we'll start with a big data overview. Okay, today we will be just seeing about the theory. Okay, it's just a basic stuff. What is the importance of this big data? Why Hadoop has come? That's all we will be seeing. Okay, but in the further sessions and all, we will be concentrating more on all the concept-wise that is related to your big data, that is Hadoop, and also we will also be seeing about all the practical sessions. Okay, I'll be showing about practicals for each and all the concepts here, so don't worry about that. Okay, today only theory part will be there. That is the basic stuff. We are just going to general things we are going to discuss. Okay, we are not starting with the actual concept itself, because since it is a first day, okay, let me start from the basic stuff of general things. Okay, so this is all about the course topics, what I'm going to cover. Okay, a brief thing I have just given here. So in the module 1, we are going to see about understanding the big data, which we will see today, and we will also see about the Hadoop architecture. Okay, what and all components Hadoop contains, how it is going to work, everything we will see in detail. And in module 2, we'll also see about the configuration part. Okay. Actually, in my course, I am concentrating more on development and analysis part. Okay. So this is an architecture job. But still, we just need to have the knowledge of it, right? At the background, what is going on, what configuration files and all. So it's better to have a knowledge about it. So I'm also going to take up that one. Not in depth, but we are also going to see all the configurations which are necessary for us in the programming point of view. Okay, that we will be seeing. Okay, and I will also show you how to alter the things and how to see the configurations, how to change the configurations and all. Usually it will not be your job, okay, as a developer or the analyst, okay, but still it's better if you have the knowledge about it. And in module 3, we are going to discuss about Hadoop MapReduce concepts, the basic MapReduce, okay. We'll also seeing about the various programs for each and every concepts, okay. And in module 4, I'm going to cover the advanced MapReduce concepts, okay. In module 3, we'll just see the basics, okay. And in module 4, how to process your image files and all, and how to use your distributed caches, okay, all those things, counters, so how to develop your own input formats and all those steps I'm going to cover. So for this module 3 and 4, okay, you just need to have the knowledge of Java. That is needed. Okay, this MapReduce program is going to be written in entirely Java. Okay, so for these two topics, that is for development side, MapReduce is mainly for development side. Okay, you need to have the Java knowledge here. And coming to the module 5, that is about Pig. So in Pig, okay, Pig and Hive, these two are mainly used for analysis purpose. Okay, MapReduce is used for development purpose. Pig and Hives are used for analysis purpose. Okay, so we will be seeing about all those things. What is the difference between Pig and Hive? Why are we using them? How to use them? All those details we will see. Okay, and we are also going to see about the HBase concept. HBase is nothing but the real-time database. Okay, so usually Hadoop is a batch processing system. Okay, so but if you want to get a real-time query execution, okay, kind of environment, then you can go for HBase here. We'll also be seeing about HBase, and it is also integrated with the Zookeeper. Zookeeper is mainly used for coordination purpose among the clusters nodes. Okay, that we will be seeing. And now Hadoop 2 has also come. Okay, so that is, we have two things, generation 1 and generation 2. So I'll be covering both of them. Okay, so but in production environment they are not using generation 2 yet. Okay, but they might use it in future. Okay, in a very near future. So for that purpose only I have included this generation 2 topics as well. That is nothing but it is going to use all the existing features. Along with this, it is going to add some more extra features here. Okay, if the problems what we have faced in this generation 1, that has overcome in generation 2. So all those features we are going to discuss. What and all extra things which are provided by generation 2 we are going to see. And in at the last module 10, we are going to see about the OSI, that is the workflow language, how it is going to work. And we will also be seeing about we will take up one project data sets, the real-time one, okay, and we will discuss on this project. Okay, so this is all the things which I'm going to cover in my Hadoop classes. Okay, so it is just a brief idea I have given. Okay, just like a topic wise. Okay, we will be seeing in depth about each and every topic. Okay. So before starting this big data, can I just get a quick answer from all of you saying that what do you know by big data? Okay, it may be a general thing. By the name itself, what you have understood. Okay. Can I just get a quick answer from all of you?
Hi Shanta, this is Nadeem.
Yeah, Nadeem, tell me.
So I mean, I have taken some self-study classes, so I think I know the 3 V's. So, you know, so I think, you know,
Yeah,
I
tell
mean, this wouldn't apply to me at this point, I'm guessing.
me. Okay. So only I told in a general type, by seeing the name itself, what you have just got the idea. Only that much I'm asking. In a single
No, that's
point.
what I'm, right. So I already know, you know, what makes big data, right? So I already know the, you know, the actual
Okay.
answer for that. So I already know the 3 V's and I know the 4th V and all that. So for me, it's like, you know.
Okay, and then I would like to say
I would
just
be
wait for a
acting
few
dumb for
minutes.
no reason, you know.
Okay, okay, that's great. Just wait for a few minutes, Nadeem. We will get answer from other 2 people also. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Sunil is saying something. Sunil says it's a large unstructured data. Very good, Sunil. Like Facebook chats, Twitter. Okay. Gitu, I'm not able to hear you. Can you speak now?
Geetu, actually you're on mute.
No.
Can you please unmute yourselves so that we can hear you? Please click on that green color button beside your name. Please click on that. You have muted from your end, Geetu.
Yeah, now
Hello,
speak.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Sorry about that. It's yeah, so basically we're talking about big data, right? Just big means like, large and, complex. Basically, whether it's unstructured or structured is, very big in like in terabyte or, petabyte of data.
Yes.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, very good. So I have got a pretty good answers. Okay, that's all. A general thing I just asked. So whatever you people said, that is correct. Okay, but along with that, something more I want to explain here. Okay, by the name, as Gitu says, that's correct. It's a huge amount of data. Okay, and as Sunil said, that is also correct. It also handles unstructured data, okay, but as well as structured. Okay, both the data are going to be handled. Okay, by the name itself, we can say big data is nothing but huge amount of data in a simple term. Okay, the complex things we will see further. Okay, so huge amount of data is nothing but the lot of data, like terabytes to petabytes. Earlier we used to see like if we have a petabyte of data or a terabyte of data, it is a huge thing we used to think. Okay, but in fact now it has been crossed the zettabytes of data. In fact, okay, it's a huge amount of data. Okay, so from where this huge amount of data is being generated, we are having different sources, right? It may be from a small source to a big source, like each and everything is going to generate a data, right? Our microphones generates data, our systems generates data, your web server, okay, the log files, the wireless sensors, everything. Okay, we are having so many different types of sources which are going to generate a huge amount of data. Okay, so what type of data are they going to generate? They are going to generate both structured as well as unstructured data. We are having some more types. We will see about that in the further slides. Okay, but as of now, just understand two things mainly, that is structured and unstructured. Okay, so we are getting different types of data from different sources. What are the different types? Structured and unstructured data. Here the unstructured data, we call it as a complex data. It is difficult to process. Okay. Earlier we had our traditional systems to store this data. Alright. So when the data is being generated, obviously you need to store it first. Then only you can do the analysis on top of that. Why do you want to do the analysis? Obviously, we also have a student here, right, who is working on the business intelligence already. So he knows well, why do we need to store the data? Why do we need to have the analysis, right? So for the business perspective, okay, we are going to do the analysis on top of the data so that we will get some good output on it, okay? So here the problem here is, first one, we need to store this huge amount of data, okay, and this data is coming from different sources, so it is going to have different form, okay, like structured, unstructured, so different forms. We have something more like semi-structured, quasi-structured, okay, like that. So different form of data is coming that we need to store it, okay. And the second thing is we need to perform analysis on top of it, okay, the two main things. So earlier for storing this data, okay, we used to use the traditional system like RDBMS, MySQL or Oracle, anything it can be, okay. So the databases, they support, okay, they usually support for storing your structured data well, okay. They store your structured data well, but what happened? All the unstructured data, we used to skip this out. We were not able to analyze the unstructured data, okay. So much of business point of view, we have lost so much of data usage over there, okay. So the main thing here is we need to capture whatever the data has been generated, okay, and you just need to cleanse the data. I mean, whatever the unwanted things are there, that you need to remove it, you need to store it, okay, and you can search anything if you want, you can share this data, you can perform some analysis on top of it, okay. So all those different things needs to be done, okay. This is the biggest challenge here. The main challenge is storing this structured and unstructured data and performing analysis on top of it, okay. So your traditional systems, they have some limitation, okay. They cannot store huge amount of data, okay. If you try to store, okay, the performance is going to be degraded, okay. So for that purpose, we needed some other system, okay, which can allow us to store any amount of information without any limit here, okay, and which allows us to perform analysis on any form of data, okay. That is mainly needed here. So before going in depth, okay, we'll just take some real-time use cases itself, okay. Like an example of NYSE, that is New York Stock Exchange, okay. So I hope all of you are having a bit knowledge about the trading, okay. So this NYSE, okay, it is mainly used for trading purpose. So it generates around 1 terabytes of data, okay, per day. per day it generates 1 terabyte of data. So that needs to be stored. Why do we want to store that data? Because we want to predict the future, right? So we are going to, if you are doing a trading, then you are going to depend on some analyst, right? Saying that which one to purchase, which one to sell, okay? So that are going to be guided by your analyst. How the analyst is going to guide you, okay? At which point you want to sell the share, at which point you need to buy the share and all, okay? How is he going to analyze? He is going to analyze based on the history, that is the previous data which is present. So he is just going to take the data from the past 5 years, okay, what pattern it is going on, okay, on which particular product, on which particular share, okay, how the pattern is moving on, okay, like for each 2 years, okay, the share is going to be down. After 6 months, it is going to be raised, okay. So all those analysis, by seeing the pattern, he is going to analyze it, okay, and he is going to guide us. It is nothing but he is going to predict the future, right? So for that purpose, okay, we need a system which stores this huge amount of data. You can see I am saying 1 terabytes of data per day. You can imagine for 5 years, example I have given, okay. So for 5 years, how much data it may be accumulated, okay, so that we can store it and perform the analysis on top of it, okay. And one more use case, you can just take this, the social media sites like Facebook itself, okay. So nowadays everyone will be having account in Facebook, okay. So obviously everyone wants to use this as much as possible. I can say the new generation has been completely addicted to the Facebook, okay. They will be online almost all of the day, okay. So what are they going to do? They are just going to post some status message or post some images, okay, or they may share some videos, audios, okay. What are they? They all are unstructured data. This audio, video, images, okay, the server logs, the log files, all those things are unstructured data, okay. So we need a way to store this unstructured data, okay, and it should process it in a very fast manner. As soon as you log into the Facebook account, okay, your details, okay, related to your friends or whatever, that is going to be displayed to you immediately, right? How it is going to be done? Because it is fetching the data from the backend and displaying it to you, okay, in a fraction of seconds. So huge amount of data, that is structured and unstructured data. Facebook generates 1 petabyte of data per day, okay. So you can imagine there are so many number of users are there, so many type of actions they are going to do on Facebook. So the output of those actions are being a generation of your structured and unstructured data. They can give the chat messages as well, okay, as I said. So different form of data is going to be generated that needs to be stored, okay, so that they can come to know later, okay, at the later point they can come to know how their business is going on, okay. Is the Facebook is getting popular or it is not getting popular, whether the usage has been increased or decreased, okay. Everything they want to analyze, particularly for what purpose they are using Facebook, okay. So all those things they are going to analyze this one. So based on that they are going to take some decisions to improve their popularity or to take some strategic decisions, okay, like that. One more use case we can take, like the aircraft itself, okay. So aircraft, it generates, okay, 30 terabytes of data for every 30 minutes of its flying time. Okay, for every 30 minutes of its flying time, aircraft, that is airplane, is going to generate 30 terabytes of data. So you can imagine from one particular station, one place to another place, how much time it may take. If you are having a 6 hours journey or 9 hours journey, how much data is going to be generated. I hope all of you have heard about Blockbox. Have you heard about Blockbox? Yes.
Yes.
Can you just, tell me, Sunil, what do you mean by this? So Nadeem, Sunil, Geetu, you can just write it down in the chat window. Records flight details. Okay, good. So Nadeem and Geetu, you can also just write it down in the chat window in a single line, if you know. Okay. All the communications and sensor data, Sunil. Okay. So yes, Nadeem also agree for that. Okay. So the same thing. So as you know, all the sensor data and the information, the details about the flight, okay, that is some mathematical terms will also be there, like the x-axis position, y-axis position, something and all, okay. All those, that is nothing but overall we can just say the location where it is traveling, okay. So that, and all the passengers information, all those, okay, all those things related to your flight is going to be stored in the Blockbox. Okay. So here actually what happens, as I told, for every 30 minutes it's generating a 10 terabytes of data, I told. Okay. So you can imagine for more number of hours of its journey, how much data it is going to generate. That is huge amount of data. Why do you need that huge amount of data? Why do you need to store that one? It is a unstructured data. Okay, completely unstructured data is going to be generated, and that is going to be stored here. In Blockbox, it is going to be stored in the form of log files. Okay, that is a completely unstructured data. So why do you need that one? Just imagine, okay, if something goes wrong, if your aircraft met with some accident, okay, then they need to find out the cause, right? No one will be alive. You cannot ask anyone what has happened, okay? So you need to find out the cause. How are you going to find out? By taking the data which is present in your Blockbox, okay? They are going to perform the analysis on that, okay? So that they will find out the cause and they will take the precaution for other aircrafts at least, okay? So that if any technical issues are there, that needs to be corrected, okay? So that is going to be done by doing the analysis on top of your huge amount of unstructured data, okay? These are all your real-time use cases only, okay? NYSE, Facebook, okay, this aircraft thing, or power grid transmission, so many are there. All of them are going to generate huge amount of data. You can ask, earlier weren't they generating huge amount of data? Yes, they were generating, okay, but we didn't have a proper technology to store and analyze that unstructured data. That's it. We just used to take the structured data and we used to do the analysis, okay. We just used to ignore the unstructured data. But now why we are caring means because the data generation has been increased a lot, okay. You can see here data volume is growing exponentially. The estimated global data generation value In 2011, it was 1.8 zettabyte. Okay, but for every year it is getting doubled. Okay, so the data generation has increased. How is it increasing? Example, we can take the Facebook itself. Earlier they were not using Facebook, right? Our ancestors and all, were they using Facebook and all? They were not using. They were not using internet also much. Okay, so the data generation was less. Just an example I gave. Okay, similarly we are having different types of data generation as well. Okay, so but now this generation has been completely addicted to Facebook. So huge amount of data is being generated now. Okay, so like that. So for different use cases, different requirements has been risen. Okay, so we are doing most of our work on internet itself. So everything is going to generate data. Okay, so in 2015 they are expecting 7.9 zettabytes. By 2020 they are expecting actually 40 zettabytes of global data generation. Okay, this is what they are expecting. Usually it crosses their limit. Okay, what they say, that is going to be crossed usually. Okay, so over the next 10 years, okay, we are saying like the number of servers in the worldwide, okay, they are going to grow by 10 times. Okay, and amount of information managed by each organization or the data centers are going to grow by 50 times. The number of files, the data what you're going to store is going to be grown by 75 times. Is there just prediction? Okay, it can be crossed. It is not going to be constant. They are just predicting it like that, depending on the current situation. Okay, so you can just see here 1 kilobyte. We are going to refer, so all of you know, I suppose. So we are just going to refer the data in terms of bits and bytes, okay, in our machine. So 8-bit is equals to 1 byte. So 1 kilobyte is equals to 1000 bytes. 1 megabyte is nothing but these many bytes, okay, like this. So we are having up to, we can also generate zettabytes of data and store it, okay, and analyze it. So we are expecting like this. Okay, so the global data generation in terms of zettabyte means you can imagine how much data is going to be generated. Okay, so now we'll see what are the different types of data. As I told, mainly we are going to concentrate on structured and unstructured, as well as we are having some more, okay, like semi-structured and quasi-structured. Okay, that is nothing but they belong to the unstructured category only, you can assume. Okay, so structured means the data, okay, with a well format at your back end. Okay, saying that this is going to occupy this much space. Okay, like that. Everything is going to be predefined. So if you have the back-end knowledge, so you will be knowing about all this. Okay, so whatever the data in relational database, we are going to store the data in form of tables, right? That is in the form of rows and columns. That is going to have a predefined structure, okay, a proper format. So that we call it as a structured data. Okay, semi-structured is nothing but like an example of XML files. Okay, which is going to have a pattern of data that is going to be repeated. Okay, like properties, documents, all those things are going to be repeated. Okay, so it is not completely structured. Okay, it is half structured data, half unstructured data. Okay, quasi-structured is nothing but example you can take like a web click stream, like in Facebook itself. Okay, at the right side you are going to get so many advertisements. Okay, and you will be prompted to like. Okay, if you like that product, you are going to click on the like button. Okay, so why are they doing that one? because they just want to analyze the data saying that how many customers are liking this product. Okay. How is the market for this particular product? How are they going to analyze that one? By extracting the web click streams. Okay. Whatever you have liked it, that is going to be extracted at the back end and it is going to be stored. Okay. And then later they will use that one for analysis purpose. Okay. Unstructured data is nothing but which doesn't have any particular format. Okay. Example like test documents, PDFs, images, videos, log files. Okay. All those things belongs to your unstructured data. Okay. So you can see how the data, that is the structured and unstructured data, is being exploiting. Okay. So this you can see in a blue color. Okay, this is a structured data. Okay, how the structured data generation has taken place from 1970 to 2010. Okay, so you can see this, how it has been increased. It has increased, right? How it has been increased, you can see. Okay. And you can also consider unstructured data generation. Okay, earlier there were very less amount of data, unstructured data generation. Okay, but later, okay, how much it has been increased, you can see. Okay, it is exponentially generated, right? Huge amount of unstructured data. When you compare structured, okay, more than structured data, we are getting unstructured data, okay, in a huge form. Okay, the data generation has been increased, both structured and unstructured data. Okay, in that also unstructured data generation is very large. Okay, that's what I just meant to say here. So Nadim, I think Nadim, right? Nadim told about 3 V's, right? That we will see now. Okay. So what are these 3 V's constitutes your big data means? Variety, velocity, and volume. We are also having one more V, that is veracity. Okay, that has come recently again. They have found out that one. Okay, so what do you mean by this variety, velocity, volume, and veracity? That we will see now. So variety means different types of data. It may be a structured or unstructured data. Okay. Velocity means at the fast rate. Okay. The data, huge amount of data is being generated. Okay. Velocity means at the fast rate, the data is going to be generated in a huge form. Okay. From batch processing to streaming data. Okay, and volume means huge amount of data. Okay, so till now we have seen big data is nothing but huge amount of data. Okay, in a simple term, as we said in the first slide, big data refers to, big means huge amount of data. But as I told, it not only consists of huge amount of data, okay, but also it consists of different types of data. Okay, that needs to be processed in a very fast time. Okay, okay, and one more thing is you need to get the accurate result, that is your veracity. Okay, so all these things, different types of data, huge amount of data, okay, should be processed in a very fast manner. Okay, in a fast manner, in fact you are getting the data is being generated, right? So in the same way, you also needs to process the data. Okay, in a less time, we have got huge amount of data is being generated. Okay, so example to your veracity, when you go for the Google search engine, when you type something over there, okay, the exact results, the matching results you should get as a list, right? That is nothing but accurate results you are going to get. When you search for something in the search box, okay, you are going to get a list of items, list of links, okay. So that is nothing but accurate results, okay, that you are going to get. So again, before going in depth about Hadoop and all, first we will see about what do you mean by DFS. DFS is nothing but distributed file system, okay. What do you mean by DFS? I'll explain you. Before that, just consider this example. We are having a scenario in which we need to read 1 terabytes of data, okay, by a single machine, okay, which is having 4 IO channels. Each IO channel is going to work with 100 MB per second speed, okay. So just imagine how much time it is going to take a single machine to read 1 terabytes of data with this specification, how much data it is going to read. Can you just guess it? You can just give a guess. Okay, I think nobody is getting idea. Okay. So let me tell you, it takes around 45 minutes, okay, for a single machine to read 1 terabytes of data, okay, using 4 IO channel. Each IO channel is going to work with 100 MB per second speed, okay. So it is going to take around 45 minutes of time, okay. But the same thing, okay, if you are going to use multiple machines here, okay, if you're going to use a multiple machines here, then what happens? You're just going to distribute your work among all these machines. Consider you're having 10 machines in a cluster, okay. You are going to divide its job, okay. We will just distribute our work among all these 10 nodes. Each node is having 4 IO channels. Each IO channel can read with 100 MB per second. Okay. So if multiple persons are going to share the work, then how much time it is going to take? For reading the same 1 terabytes of data by using 10 machines with this specified requirement, okay, it is exactly, yes Nadim, yes Geetu, so same thing, okay. So we are just going to get, okay, around 4.5 minutes, okay. For a single machine it took 45 minutes, but if you distribute the same work among multiple machines, okay, then it is going to take around 4.5 minutes, okay, like this. So DFS is nothing but distributed file system. We are having a number of systems connected together in a cluster, okay, and we are going to distribute our work among all these systems so that we can get the results faster, okay. So one more thing what we need to consider here is the DFS consolidation. If you don't have DFS consolidation, okay, then you need to remember all the machines addresses and the data, what it is exactly storing. Like the reports data is stored in this machine, the software data is stored in this machine, projects data is stored in this machine, like that. But it is difficult to remember, right? We might be having 100, thousands of nodes in a cluster. It's difficult to know what machine is having what data. You cannot remember it, Okay, so instead of that, we are going to use the DFS consolidation for that purpose. Okay, what is DFS consolidation? You can just take the example like a gateway server. It is like a gateway server. Or take an example like entrance to the mall. Okay, in a mall you're going to get everything. Okay, all the related like utensils or electronic goods, okay, or clothes. So everything you're going to get at a single place. But imagine if mall is not there. For purchasing clothes, you need to go to the north end of the city, and for purchasing utensils or electronic goods, you need to go to south end of the city. Okay, so that is going to be difficult, right? So if you're going to a mall, okay, so since it is having all the things like all the electronic goods category is also there, clothes category is also there, okay, utensils is also there. If you just go to one particular place, okay, you will find everything. Okay, in the same manner, you just need to remember the address of the mall. Okay, in the same manner, you need to remember the address of the gateway server. That's it. Just remember a single URL. Okay, whatever you are going to request, your request is going to be done on this particular server itself, the gateway server, which is responsible for diverting your request to the respective mission which is having your requested data. Okay, so like this your gateway server is going to work. Now we'll see some of the limitations of the existing data analytics architecture. Okay, so you can see this instrumentation layer. Instrumentation layer is nothing but this is where the data is just going to be generated. This is a data generation phase, I can see. Okay, like data may be generated from the web servers, okay, or log files, sensor data, or the electronic goods data. Okay, so everything, different types of data, okay, is going to be generated. This is just a data generation phase. Okay, and all the data, whatever it has been generated, is going to be collected in the collection phase. Okay, so after this data has been collected here, that is going to be fed onto the grid. Okay, here grid is nothing but a collection of computers, okay, which are connected together. So we use here grid only for storage purpose. Okay, all this raw data, structured or unstructured, whatever the data, that is going to be placed onto the grid here. Okay, so actually our process is we are going to store our data here, then we are going to use the ETL tool, okay, which is going to extract this data, okay, and then you're going to load the required data, whichever is needed for the processing. That is going to be loaded onto the traditional system, that is RDBMS, and then you're going to perform the processing here, okay, and then you're going to do the analysis on top of it by using your BI tools, okay, business intelligence tools, or anything it can be. Okay, you're going to perform the analysis on top of this. This is our usual procedure. Okay, but what happens, we will see. What is the problem we are facing here, that we will see. So the data has been generated, it has been collected, and it has been placed on the grid. Okay, and the huge amount of data we have placed here, it is in the form of structured and unstructured. Okay, so moving this entire data for processing is done in this step. We are just storing our data here. Processing is going to be done in RDBMS. Okay, so it's difficult. RDBMS also has some capacity, right? It cannot store huge amount of data. Okay, so if you try to store 1 TB more than that, you may lag in the performance. Okay, it has some limitations here. Okay, and that is one more thing. You cannot store this entire data. You cannot move this entire data onto the processing. Okay, so you cannot process it. That's what we just said. We cannot explore the entire structured and unstructured data because RDBMS supports only structured data. Okay, one thing is you cannot move the entire data because it has limitation, and you cannot store the unstructured data. Okay, that is going to be wasted here. And one more thing is premature data death. Since this grid also has some capacity, okay, say that data, okay, if still the data is going to be generated, it's keep on generating, right? You cannot store the same data in the same place. It has been filled out. Okay, what you need to do, you need to empty the place so that you can store your new data. Okay, so for that purpose, what are you going to do? You are going to take the backup of this data in a tape. Okay, example I am telling, in some storage media, you're just going to take the backup and store it somewhere else so that you'll empty the space, whatever the new data is coming, that can be placed here. Okay, but imagine for analysis you want the previous data, it may be around 6 years back data or 2 years back data. Okay, so what happens that time? You need to go through a lot of procedure, like something like requesting through the forms and all. It needs to be get processed, then they need to give the permission, then you can get your tape or whatever the thing in which the data has been stored. Okay, that is going to take a long procedure, right? So that is your one more disadvantage here. These are the 3 limitations which we face here. Okay, but now, okay, what solution we have found out, we will see. Okay, we are just going to combine our storage and computation together in a single place. How? Just see. This is the data generation, this is the data collection phase that is going to be loaded onto the Hadoop. It is nothing but which has storage plus computation. Okay, it is also a collection of computers which are connected together. Okay, we are allowing to store a huge amount of data, and also we are going to perform the computation here. Okay, so you can do the computation on unstructured data as well, right? Earlier we used to do the computation in RDBMS, so only structured data was there in RDBMS. You used to compute that one, you need to process that one. But since you can do the computation or processing in the Hadoop layer itself, okay, so you can do the computation on unstructured data as well. Okay, and it allows, okay, parallel reads, right? The DFS we have seen. Hadoop works on the concept of DFS only, distributed file system. So you can read huge amount of data, okay, parallelly. Okay, so the throughput is going to be high. Okay, and the second point is, as I have told, you can perform analysis on structured as well as unstructured data. Okay, and you can keep the data alive forever. No need to take any backup. Okay, if the space in this present cluster has filled out, then no need to worry. Just add one more node to the cluster. Okay, you can store your data in the additional node. Okay, like that. So there is no limitation here. Okay, so you can linearly add up the nodes in the Hadoop cluster. These are the advantages which are provided by your new solution, that is Hadoop. Okay, so we'll see what is the difference between your traditional system and the new system. Regarding data size, up to gigabytes of data RDBMS can store. Okay, if it crashes, it lacks the performance. In new Hadoop system, what happens? You can even start storing from petabytes of data. Okay, as I told, there is no limitation. Up to zettabytes also you can store it. Okay, and regarding access point of view, interactive access. Okay, means row level updates and all you can do in the traditional system, but Hadoop is a batch processing system. which can be used only for analysis purpose. Okay, but as I told, if you want to do real-time queries, you can go for HBase, which is also integrated with the Hadoop itself. Okay, so no need to worry. And updates, as I told, read and write many times. You can perform the updation, but in MapReduce you're going to write only once and you can read many times. Okay. Regarding the structure, you're going to first define the proper structure, that is the static schema. Before storing any data, you're going to define the size of it. Right? If you have used SQL statements and all, you will come to know. You're going to define size for each field. Okay. So that is nothing but it is going to have a static fixed schema. But Hadoop stores dynamic schema. It is not going to define any structure before storing any item, any data. Okay. And integrity, it is high in traditional system. Okay. But it is low in Hadoop. Why? Because we are going to split our data into multiple blocks and store it onto different machines. Okay. Why are we doing like this? What is the use of it? That we will see. Okay, I'll be explaining you in the further sections. Okay. Here it is high because we are storing entire data in a single place. Okay. Scaling, it is non-linear. You cannot increase the size of your traditional system, but in Hadoop you can increase it linearly. Okay. Now we'll see about what is Hadoop. Okay. So why this Hadoop? We have seen what do we mean by big data. Okay. What is the problems we have faced? That is, huge amount of data is being generated, structured and unstructured data is being generated, and we need to do the processing. Okay. So we have seen all those things. What was the problem we have faced? Okay. To solve that problem, we have come up with a solution that is called as Hadoop. Hadoop is nothing but it is a framework. Okay. It allows distribute, just read this 2 sentences, okay, 2 lines, just read it. I'm just going to divide it. First statement, Hadoop is a framework, okay, means no need to develop everything from the scratch, okay, it has already built-in operations, okay, and it allows for the distributed processing, okay. What do you mean by distributed processing? DFS, we have seen it, right? We are just going to divide our task among multiple systems, okay, of large data sets, means huge amount of data can be processed across clusters of commodity computers. What do you mean by commodity? Ordinary computers, like our laptops itself, okay, with a low configuration. That is enough, no need to have a high-end system, okay. So ordinary systems, okay, can be connected together in a cluster, okay. So we don't need to invest more. Then using a simple programming model, that is nothing but MapReduce, okay, we will be seeing about that. So using MapReduce, we are going to perform the analysis, okay. So Hadoop is nothing but it is a framework which allows distributed processing of large data set, okay, across a cluster of commodity computers using a simple programming model. I hope all of you have understood this point, okay. And it is a open source, okay, with scale out storage and distributed processing. Just give me a minute. Okay. Hello. Sorry for that. So I was talking like what is Hadoop, and it is an open source, right? So I hope all of you have understood these points. Okay. Now we'll just see what is the origin of Hadoop. Yeah, good, Sunil. Okay. So we just created, Hadoop has been just created by duck cutting, okay, by a person named as duck cutting, and it is a part of the Apache project. Okay. In 2004, Google published a paper, that is a Google file system paper, that they have mentioned about this one, the MapReduce concepts and all, okay, using the big table concept. Okay. So in 2005, the Notch, that is the open source web search engine that uses this MapReduce for their work. Okay. By 2008, it becomes the Apache's top level project. Initially, it was Lucine's sub-project, so it increased its popularity. So in 2009, Yahoo used this Hadoop to sort 1 TB of data in 62 seconds. Okay, you can imagine this one, 62 seconds, 1 terabyte of data. Okay, so you can imagine how much popularity it has got after this. Okay, by now hundreds and thousands of companies are going for this Hadoop to manage their data. Okay, now we'll see what makes our Apache Hadoop more useful. Okay, that is first point, scalable. Okay, means you can store any amount of data. There is no limitation at all. You can even start from storing from petabytes to zettabytes of data. Okay, so if the data volume increases, you can just simply add one new node to the cluster. That's it. Okay, and it is economical. Why economical? Because we are using the ordinary computers, right? No need of high configuration. We can just use the ordinary computers to store our data. Okay, and it is efficient. Okay, why? Because we are doing the parallel processing, right? We are just going to distribute our data among multiple nodes and we'll do the parallel processing, so it is efficient. And it is reliable. Why it is reliable means I'll be explaining you in the further session about this. Okay, we are just going to make the that is maintain the copy of each data. So if one system is going to fail, still we are not going to lose our data. Okay, we will get the same data in another machine. Okay, whatever the data comes to your Hadoop, that is going to be divided into multiple blocks. Each block is going to be replicated 3 times. Okay, usually by default we are going to have 3 replicas. You can change that one as well. Okay, so we call it as reliable because we are not going to lose any data at any cost. Okay, who and all uses this Hadoop? Facebook, Yahoo, these are all the current users who uses this Hadoop. Okay, you can just see this one. And these are the different use cases. So I have already explained different use cases at the first slide itself. Okay, some more use cases are there. You can just see in the IT and log analytics, financial services, social media, retail, energy sector, telecom, manufacturing. In all these areas also, okay, we are having huge amount of data is being generated. Okay, what is the different types of data generated? That is in the science side, we can say the astronomy data, human data, environmental data, transportation. So these are the different types of data. On the science side, it is going to be generated. Okay, on the social science, you can also see scanned books, historical documents, social interactions. We are going to have the books in the form of PDFs, right? The soft copies and all. So on the business perspective, corporate sales, stock market transactions, census, airline traffic. Okay. On the entertainment section, images, movies, audio, videos and all. Medicine section, MRI, CT scan, patient records. These are the examples, okay, which type of data is going to be generated in the real time now. Okay, so like this. Something more also we have, okay, like log files, web servers and all of them are going to generate the data, right? So this is some of the example. What are the current challenges we are having actually? The limitation of existing IT infrastructure and resources, the number of employees, okay? And the vertical scalability is not always the solution. Like if you have increased something, the storage or something, the cluster, you need to upgrade the server, right? So that is not always the solution, okay? Obviously you need to pay more. Okay, here also we are going to have the upgrade option, means it is not in terms of a vertical scalability, in terms of horizontal scalability. Okay, we can simply add some additional nodes to it. Okay, you'll see about a name node, data nodes and all. What do you mean by that and all? So here just understand, vertical scalability means we need to invest some more money. Okay, increase the capacity of your server, okay, in terms of hard disk and RAM and all. Okay, so then manually take the backup of the present server and put it into the new server. That needs to be done. Okay, and RDBMS is not designed to scale out. As I told, it has some limit. You cannot store huge amount of data in traditional system, and it cannot handle unstructured data. That's what I said already. Okay, so all these points we have already covered it. Okay, so I'm just moving forward. So a new approach to this problem is needed, that is to process this structured and unstructured data and to run a huge amount of data in an economical manner. Okay, that is by using the cheap commodity hardwares. Okay. Okay, Sunil is not able to hear me. Is it so, Sunil? Oh, sorry, I didn't see your message. Now I'm seeing. Are you able to hear me now? So Nadim and Geetu, you people are able to hear me, right? Yeah, Geetu is able to hear, Nadim is able to hear. I think Sunil, the problem is at your end. You should check it out, Sunil.
Could you please rejoin or else Sunil so that it will be working, I believe?
Okay, Sunil is able to hear me. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Please, Shanta, go ahead.
Yeah, Sunil, if you're having any doubts, sorry, I didn't see your message. If you have missed out something, okay, if you are having any doubts, you can ask me, okay? That's not a problem. Yeah. Okay, Sunil. So this was the current challenges we have seen. So why should I care for this Hadoop now? Because instead of using Hadoop, if you go for fault-tolerant hardware separately with the high configuration, okay, that is going to be more expensive, right? But Hadoop provides this one, fault tolerance concept. That is nothing but even if you're going to lose data from one machine, still you're going to get your data in another machine, okay? So you can directly go for Hadoop, right? It will work out cheaply. No need to pay more here. And complicated data replication and failure system. That's what I said. Okay. So you will understand about this, all this replication. What do you mean by this? How much it is going to be replicated? All these things I'll be explaining to you in the next section. Okay. So don't worry about this. So overall, you can just understand if you are going for a separate hardware, okay, for doing all these things, for fault tolerance purpose, for data replication purpose and all, okay, failure handling purpose and all, you're going to pay more over there. It is going to be very expensive, okay, and you also need to take care of some manual process as well there, okay. So but here Hadoop is going to do everything automatically, okay, with less cost, okay, so that you can just concentrate on your processing data. That's it. You're not concerned about replication and all. That is going to be done automatically by your Hadoop. How it is going to be done, we will be seeing in detail, okay, in the next section. So these are the different Hadoop ecosystem components. We can see this is HDFS, that is nothing but Hadoop distributed file system. So in which we are going to store our actual data. Okay. On top of it, we are having the HBase. As I told, HDFS, Hadoop is mainly designed for batch processing, right? So if you want to have a real-time queries, then you will go for HBase. Okay. And MapReduce is mainly used for analysis purpose. Okay, whatever the data comes to your Hadoop, first it is going to be stored onto the HDFS. Okay, on that you're going to perform the analysis using MapReduce framework. Okay, so after this we are having Hive and Pig, which are mainly used for analysis purpose. This is for development purpose. Okay, so these two are mainly used for analysis purpose. What is the difference between all of them, we will be seeing. Okay, so here I am just giving the overview like in a single sentence. Okay, but we will be seeing about everything in detail in a separate chapters. Okay, for HDFS we are having separate chapter, MapReduce we are having separate chapter, for Hive, Pig, okay, everything we will be seeing separately, but not Mahout. Okay, so Mahout is a machine learning language. Okay, we just make the machine to learn by itself. Okay, from its past data. Like if I'm going to take the application of chess. Okay, chess is a game, right? So what happens? How your computer knows how to play? Because okay, when first time a user is going to play with the computer, it is going to analyze. Okay, it is going to store each image, takes the snapshot of each move and store it in its memory. So next time the same situation comes, okay, it analyzes by its data, the snapshots, what it has taken. Okay, if this is the move, okay, what action I needs to take. That is going to be analyzed by itself. Okay, so Mahout is nothing but a machine learning language. Okay, so we are not going to concentrate on Mahout, but we are going to concentrate on our development part, analysis part, and also a bit about configuration part, that is architect's job. Okay, and at the top we are having Oozie. Oozie is a workflow language. Okay, like you might be having different jobs, maybe MapReduce job, Hive job, Pig job. Okay, one may be dependent on another. Okay, MapReduce may be running, so you need to provide the relationship. Okay, the output of the MapReduce should be given as the input to the Hive, then only it will run. The output of Hive should be given as input to the Pig, then only it will run. Okay, like that. So if this is the case, okay, then how to control their execution? As we know, Hadoop allows multiple tasks to be done parallelly. Okay, but one is dependent on another, right? So we need to follow some execution pattern here. So that is going to be taken care by Oozie. Okay, like that. So if you want to, okay, load a structured data onto your HDFS. Suppose your company is already using some traditional system which is having a structured data, but you want to migrate it to Hadoop now. Okay, then you are going to use a tool. These are simple tools. Okay, so Scoop is a tool which is responsible for transferring your structured data to and from your Hadoop. Okay, HDFS. And Flume is a tool which is used for transferring your unstructured data to and from your HDFS. Okay, so don't worry about all these things. I'll be explaining in detail about each and every topic, okay, in the further sections and all. Okay, it is just an overview saying that what and all are there in Hadoop. Okay, this is the explanations what I have given. So that's all about today's session. Are you people having any doubts? Do you want to ask anything?
Please unmute your mic, Getu Vijay, and if you do have any queries, please talk to the trainer, Getu and Nadeem and Sunil.
No, I think I'm good. Just get to.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome. All right. And any questions, Nadeem?
Yes. So, what are the next week's